Thank you very much, everybody, for coming today. With me is my law partner, Christina Cheung, and also our client, Jane Doe. I will be making a statement. After I make my statement, Jane Doe will make her statement, and then we'll open it up for some questions. Recently, we filed a lawsuit in the Superior Court in Ventura on behalf of our client, Jane Doe, against defendant Doe 1. Later, we sought and were granted by the court permission to amend our lawsuit to provide the true name of defendant Doe 1. Yesterday, we filed our amended lawsuit, which reveals that defendant Doe 1 is in fact the Thacher School, a well-known private residential school in Ojai, California. Thacher has been in the local and national news in the last few years because of the allegations from a number of students going back decades that they had been victims of either rape, sexual assault, or inappropriate conduct by certain faculty members and/or administrators when they attended the school. In addition, some of the accusers alleged that when they reported their allegations to the school, they were either retaliated against or responded to in a manner that was inappropriate and left them feeling unprotected. When the scandal became public, Thacher hired the law firm of Munger, Tolles, and Olson, which we'll call Munger Tolles, to do an investigation and provide a report to the board of Thacher and the public. The 91-page report, which was released last year, covered issues of faculty, and this is a quote, faculty sexual misconduct, end quote, Thacher's handling of, quote, student sexual misconduct, end quote, and it made recommendations, this is, quote, recommendations for corrective actions, end quote. It detailed numerous alleged sexual incidents of victimization of students and the failure of the school to protect them or act in an appropriate manner when the incidents were reported to them. After the report was published, it was criticized by some former alumni and supporters of the school who alleged that the report was incomplete. As a result of the criticism, a supplemental report was promised, but never provided. After the Munger Tolles report was published, our client, Jane Doe, contacted Munger Tolles and reported her allegation of sexual abuse to them. In addition, she made a report to law enforcement. She then retained my law firm, which is Allred, Morocco, and Goldberg, to learn her legal rights and options and to file a lawsuit to vindicate her rights. Her goal was and is to make Thacher accountable for their failure to protect her from childhood sexual abuse at Thacher, and the school's failure to respond appropriately when she reported to the school the misconduct that she suffered when she was a student there. That is why we filed a lawsuit for her against Thacher. In our complaint, we allege negligent supervision and retention, negligence per se, negligent failure to warn, train, or educate students, sexual harassment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, sexual battery. In our lawsuit, we also allege that at the end of plaintiff Jane Doe's sophomore year, after plaintiff's repeated complaints about the aforementioned sexual abuse, the Thacher School told plaintiff she was not welcome to return the following year. We are seeking damages, including punitive damages, in an amount to be proven at trial. To our knowledge, it appears that this may be the first lawsuit filed by a former student of Thacher who alleged sexual abuse at the school. We are very proud of our client and the courage that she has demonstrated in deciding to file this lawsuit against this very powerful and prestigious school. She hopes that her case will assist both her and other former students in learning the truth about why Thacher failed so many of its students. We look forward to asserting, protecting, and vindicating the rights of our client, Jane Doe, in a California court of law. And before I introduce Jane Doe, I will just show you, this is the report. It's very lengthy, and it is the Munger-Tolles report that they did for the board of Thacher. And now I am happy to be able to introduce our very brave client, Jane Doe, and she will make a statement.
Thank you, Gloria. I was 13 when I arrived at Thacher in the fall of 1982. I was an outgoing girl with good grades and was really looking forward to a life of horses, making new friends, and escaping an unhappy and unsupportive home environment, which I now see likely made me a target for abuse. Within weeks of my arrival, I garnered the special attention of the school's headmaster. He would put his arms around me, hug me, and call me his special girl. This unwanted attention quickly escalated with increased touching and eventually leading to groping of my breasts and body. He also had a pattern of stalking me when I made my way from my dorm to the horse stables, which was very unsettling and frightening to me. When I complained to faculty, I was told that he was just being friendly or grandfatherly and not to worry about it. Although they would often pull him off of me when he touched me inappropriately or got too close in public. This sexual abuse occurred throughout most of my freshman year. My grades dropped precipitously, and I felt increasingly lost and alone with no one to turn to. A separate incident of molestation happened at the hands of a school nurse when I was kept at the infirmary overnight against my will. When I complained to a female teacher about this incident, my concerns were similarly brushed aside. I was asked not to return to Thacher after my sophomore year, I believe in large part because I objected to the sexual abuse. My life spun out of control pretty quickly. My home environment continued to deteriorate. I dropped out of high school in my junior year, and I was essentially emancipated at 16. For the next decade or so, I felt lost and without direction or any family support. My life became pretty chaotic, and I engaged in some risky behaviors and poor decision-making. It really took becoming a parent in my mid-20s that gave me the motivation to make something of my life. I tried to put what happened at Thacher behind me and not think about it, but I realize now that it did have a profound impact on me and my life. I came forward with my experience after reading the Munger report because so much of what was described there reflected my own experiences of having my complaints be ignored and the school instead protecting the perpetrators. I can't help thinking how my life and the lives of other victims might have been different had Thacher taken my complaints seriously, investigated, and ultimately fired Bill Wyman back in 1983. A decade or more of abuse could have been prevented, and countless victims could have been spared. As detailed in the Munger report, this pattern of overlooking student complaints and signs of distress and protecting faculty abusers resulted in many, many children suffering extensive sexual abuse at the school over decades. Ultimately, Thacher failed in its most basic duty, to protect the well-being of its students and to provide a safe living and learning environment for them. Thacher failed me, It failed countless other students and our families. I hope that by coming forward, that my experience, along with those of other victims, can help bring about real change at this and other similar institutions. First and foremost, schools need to listen to and believe children when they come forward, and they need to look and respond when children are showing signs of distress. Children are the ones who should be protected, not the sexual predators who are victimizing them.
Thank you very much. By the way, I apologize to everyone for mispronouncing Thacher, and that is the school, Thacher, which is in Ventura County in Ojai. By the way, the case number for the original complaint that we filed, which we will send out to anyone who requests it, is number 562022 00569 257 CUMC VTA, and it can be found on the website of the Superior Court of the County of Ventura, California. This is the copy of the original lawsuit that we filed. In California, we were not permitted to add the name of the defendant. When we filed it, we had to seek special leave of court to do that, which we did, and that is why we're able to share with you today that there was an amended complaint. The only difference in the amended complaint, which is now up on the webpage, is the fact that the name of the school is revealed. So now we'll be happy to take any questions. If you have any, you can just put them in the chat, and we'll be happy to try to answer what we can. While we're waiting for any questions in the chat, I will just say that that the laws have changed in many states, and in California, for example, even decades later. And as Jane Doe said, this happened to her a long time ago in the 80s. But in California, the statute of limitations, that arbitrary time period set by law, has been extended so that adult survivors of child sexual abuse can still have access to the courts to file a civil lawsuit. So for example, the case that we just won, our law firm won against Bill Cosby, was in reference to an incident that took place that our client suffered in 1975, that long ago. But she was permitted under the current law to file the civil lawsuit. So we just want everyone to know that in many states, it is still possible for a person who alleges she's a victim of child sexual abuse to still have access to justice to the civil lawsuit. So now your question is, am I inviting other former students of Thacher to come forward now? Well, Jen, I would say that we're always happy to be contacted if any other students who have not filed lawsuits, because again, we've done a search to the best of our knowledge. This is the first one that's actually filed. If there are others who believe that they are adult victims of child sexual abuse at Thacher, we're certainly willing to speak to them, to tell them all of their legal options and the benefits and risks of any option they wish to pursue. So when you say come forward, I'm not necessarily saying they should come forward publicly. We always think it's wise to consult with a private attorney to think of the benefits and risks of any option that a person who believes they are a victim wishes to pursue. Another question that Jen from the Daily Mail has is the principal responsible for this abuse named in the complaint. We're not going to be answering any questions about what is said in the complaint. The complaint speaks for itself. Chrissy, do you want to add anything to that?
No, the name of it's not the principal, it's the headmaster, and he's identified in the Munger Tolls report.
Okay, are there any other questions? All right, I see no other questions. I think we have covered everything in our statements, and certainly the lawsuit is very lengthy and speaks for itself. The lawsuit that we originally filed is 31 pages long. So I think it explains what probably any question that you might have is explained in this lawsuit. So I thank everybody for attending. By the way, I'll give you one last chance. If you want to use the Q&A button to ask a question, you can still do that. I'll give you just a few minutes for that. And if not, we'll be happy to conclude. But if you do have a question, we'll do our best to answer. Okay, someone has a question. They just need a minute to be able to type it in. So we'll wait for them. While we're waiting, so I just want to also mention, this is not the first lawsuit we've ever had in our law firm against the school. We are currently involved in and representing victims of the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. There are many alleged victims that we are representing, and we are doing that with our co-counsel in North Carolina. And that lawsuit has been filed. In addition, we did not file a lawsuit, but we certainly represented numerous persons who alleged they were victims of the Horace Mann School in New York. This was many years ago, and it was our lawsuit that worked with the school in order to reach a settlement in that matter. Okay, don't think there is any other. Oh, the question is, what year did Jane Doe attend Thacher, and when did the incidents occur at Thacher? So she did say that she was 13 when she arrived at Thacher in the fall of 1982. I guess I'll ask Jane Doe, if you wish to answer, did the incidents occur in 1982?
Hi, Gloria. Yes, so I arrived in 1982, and the molestation started really within weeks of my arrival. So my freshman year was 82, 83. And that's when the abuse with the headmaster occurred. And then the nurse incident, I believe, happened in my sophomore year, which would have been 83, 84.
Okay.
I can't pinpoint the exact time.
All right, that's fine, thank you. All right, I think we have all the questions we're going to have, and we thank everybody for attending, and we especially thank Jane Doe, and in addition, my wonderful partner, Christina Cheung. If you think of other questions later, feel free to email me and we'll do our best to respond. Thank you very much for attending. And this press conference is now concluded.